A lot of us feel like marketing is overwhelming. It feels daunting. It feels heavy. It feels aggressive. It feels salesy. It feels manipulative. We have so many negative connotations with marketing, and so many times it's like we have these gifts, we have these offers, we have these things we want to share with the world. We want to make money. We want to build a successful business, and yet we have this model of marketing that doesn't feel right. And so many of us, myself included, were taught how to market in a way that it feels like we have to perform and manipulate and convince and show up in a way that just doesn't feel good. And then so many people wonder why they don't want to do it. And so if you feel that resistance around marketing, you're definitely not alone. And my hope for you in this masterclass today is that over the next hour or so, what I want to do is I want to share a new model for marketing, new way of showing up and doing this, a way that not only is going to allow you to attract clients and actually make money in your business, but attract clients and grow your business in a way that feels so much more like who you really are, in a way where you don't have to feel like you need to perform, put on this mask, or play this character in your business, but you can actually show up as you. And I'm in this right now. This is why I'm so excited to share this, because this is not theory. This is something that has been alive for me over the past year in my business. For those of you, if you've been following me for the past year, I've been in a major reboot and transition in my own business, starting about a year ago when I decided to make a major pivot away from helping brand new business owners, shut down our group program, basically throw away the business that I had created that was very profitable and successful on paper. We're doing over $500,000 a year in sales, signed over 1,000 clients, and kind of throw it all out and start over again in many ways. And I did that because deep down, I knew in my heart and my soul that, the business that I had built that was aligned at one point in my life no longer was. And I felt this pull and this intuitive knowing that I was meant to do something more. And that required a real death and a rebirth. And so this past year for me has been that journey. It has been a challenging chapter for me as an entrepreneur. And it's also been a great period of self-discovery and personal growth and really spiritual evolution. And so much of my life for the past year has been looking at my business and the way that I've been showing up and everything that I've been doing and asking myself, where am I in alignment? Where am I in integrity with who I really am? And where am I out of integrity? And so as I have been moving through this transition and reimagining my business and stepping into a new chapter, one of the things that I started looking at was the way that I was showing up in marketing. And I realized that I had created this persona, this character of Jason in my marketing that I was playing in the world, this way of showing up that in some senses it worked because it was getting clients, but it started to feel like this prison, this box that I was forcing myself to fit in. There were so many aspects of who I was that just felt like they weren't in alignment with how I was showing up in the world. And it didn't happen like this overnight. It felt like over time, it was like the way I was showing up in my business just shifted and I started drifting away from who I really was. And so I attracted clients who came to me who were interested in getting help with the surface level thing that I was doing, which was helping people grow businesses and market themselves more effectively online. And at the same time, because I wasn't showing up fully as who I was, because I had this mask of performance in my business, I wasn't really attracting those soul aligned clients, the types of clients that were truly meant to work with me. And so this past year has been this reimagining of what marketing can be. And what I've discovered is when I let go of the masks, when I let go of the performance, when I let go of so many of the stories that we've all been told about what marketing is supposed to be, that every post is designed to convert, that we need to architect our marketing from our head instead of our heart, I started just speaking my truth, and I started showing up in a way where I was sharing what was truly alive for me. I let go of trying to be something for my audience and instead started asking myself, what's true and what's real for me? Everything started changing. Marketing felt so much easier. Started getting notes from people all over the world who were like, wow, like what you're sending, what you're sharing with me really, really resonates with me. I started attracting people who weren't just interested in working with me because of the surface level thing that I do, but felt deeply aligned and connected with me. That is what I want for you. That is the way of being in business that feels like it's sustainable, because you can keep showing up because you're not self-sacrificing. You're not playing a character or a role. You get to be who you really are. And I think on the deepest level, that's what we all want. We want to feel congruent. We want to feel alive. We want to feel like we can be ourselves. And so that is what this masterclass is about today, and why I'm so excited to share this with you, because almost no one's talking about this. You know, what I've learned, and I've been building businesses online for close to 20 years now. Pretty much 99% of the business advice out there, and not that people are trying to screw anybody over. Like I don't think that there's any ill will in this. I mean, I've taught a lot of the old ways of marketing for years because these were the things that I was taught. And it's like we live in this matrix where there's this prevailing set of ideas about how marketing is supposed to be. We're going to dismantle some of those today. We're going to take a closer look at them, and we're going to question them. And you're going to walk away with a new way of being in your business that is going to feel lighter and freer and more honest and more true and more authentic to you. And also, the big secret about this is that doesn't actually come at the cost of making great money and attracting clients. Actually, it's so much easier to build a successful business when you're living in alignment with who you really are. So that is our agenda for today, what we're going to explore today. If you're new to my world, I'm not going to spend a bunch of time here because I think most folks here, you are here, you probably know me. My name's Jason Moss. If you're new to my world, it's great to connect with you. I'm a business mentor. I help people grow and scale businesses, mostly online businesses. The folks who generally find value in what I share do, because I think that most of the things I offer are very different from the way that most business growth is taught. My belief is that business is a spiritual path, and that we're here on the deepest level to grow and evolve as souls. We're here to become more of who we are really meant to be. And that business actually is a beautiful way that we get to do that. It's a vehicle that we get to do that. So I'm very interested in the journey of business growth from the inside out, and helping people not just build profitable, successful, scalable businesses, but how can we use the business as a way to become more of who we really want to be, to release the layers of fear and the stories and the beliefs that are keeping us small, and to start to step into a more expansive, more alive, more free way of being in the world, which I see as the path to business growth. Your business wants to grow. So many people are trying to chase growth as if it's something that you have to add from the outside in. And what I've learned over time through signing thousands of clients online, through helping and mentoring thousands of entrepreneurs, is that when you grow, your business will grow to match. And so if you're down for that, it's not an easy journey. It's a journey where the business becomes a mirror, where you get to face all of the things in yourself that are keeping you small, all of the fear and the doubt and the stories and the narratives keep us in this box. If you're ready to break free from that, this work is for you. And I think that the business path becomes a beautiful vehicle where we get to do that. So the title of this masterclass is Resonance. Jennifer says, love this. Yes, love that. I'm glad this is resonating, Jennifer. So the title of this masterclass is Resonance. And I think about this new way of marketing that we're going to explore today. The word resonance for me really describes what it is. So what is resonance? Well, there's different ways of describing it, but I think one way of thinking about it is to recognize that when you're attracting clients, when you're building a business, when you want to truly magnetize the people who are meant to work with you. And when I say magnetize, I mean, there's a lot of people will tell you you need to go out there and you got to chase and you got to hustle. You go send a bunch of cold DMs to people, and you can build a business that way. That's a business is built on this idea of chasing. In other words, being the tugboat instead of the lighthouse in your business. There's two ways of marketing. You can be the tugboat, you can be the one who's constantly pulling people along, dragging people in to work with you, or you can be the lighthouse. And resonance is about being the lighthouse. It's about becoming so fully you, so fully alive, so fully radiant in your expression that you become magnetic. Other people will feel drawn to you, whether they can understand it on a conscious level or not. People say, like, I want to attract clients. I don't want to feel like I'm like constantly going out there and chasing them. This is what resonance allows you to do. It allows you to become a magnet in your business. And on a deeper level, the way I think about it is I talk a lot about energy in business because I think the deepest level of business is energetic. Most folks spend most time talking about strategy. Strategy is all about like the scaffolding that holds your business together. And strategy is important. We need strategy, but it's like 10% of what makes a business successful. The other 90% is the thing that the strategy holds within it, which is energy. In other words, you could have the perfect strategy for how to show up for a webinar or a training like this, but at the end of the day, the thing that is going to make the webinar successful is your energy. It's the feeling that somebody gets when they experience you on a live training like this. And if you think about it, like, if you went to science class in high school or middle school or whatever, and they had these tuning forks, I remember these. And these are tuning forks, by the way. This may not look great, but just imagine with me that those are tuning forks. And so a tuning fork has a certain pitch to it. And that pitch is a vibration. It's a resonance. It's a frequency. And so when you hit a tuning fork, that tuning fork is going to vibrate at a certain frequency. And that frequency creates a pitch that you can hear, a certain note, a musical note. And so if you imagine that you and your business actually have a certain frequency, you're like a tuning fork. You vibrate at a certain frequency. And your ideal clients have a certain frequency. Your job in business, part of your job, is to align these two things. Because when you become resonant at a certain frequency, you will attract people at a certain frequency. And this is what's happening underneath the surface every single day. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs I work with, they're like, how do I attract better clients? And when they say better, what they usually mean is people who want to pay me more, or people who are easier to work with, or people who are self-led. And all of it comes back to this question of resonance and frequency. It's, well, if you're attracting a certain type of client, it's because you're vibrating at a certain frequency. And so if you look at the way that you're showing up in your business, the type of content that you're creating, who you are on the deepest level, how you feel, you start looking at this on a deeper level and examining this, and it's like there's no accident why there's certain clients who feel attracted to that certain vibration. For years in my business, I attracted clients who would start to work with me, and they came to me. They came to me because they kind of wanted a savior, and I don't think I understood this for a while. But I would feel like they were coming to me looking for me to like solve their problem. And they wanted me to do that for them. And I started to resist this. I was like, well, look, like I'm a mentor, I'm a coach, I'm someone who is going to walk beside you and I'm going to empower you to step into your own leadership. But I was like, why does this keep happening? I keep experiencing the same dynamic with these clients. And I started looking at myself and I realized that I was showing up in my business as the expert because deep down, there was a part of me that really wanted to prove myself to other people. I was like, if I show up and I talk about how credible I am, and I kind of like subconsciously like put other people down in my marketing. I was like, look, I need to like make them feel like they don't know the way without me. So much marketing, this is what people teach. They're like, you need to like make other people feel bad, basically, like about where they are. This is like conventional marketing. It's like push on their pain points, make them feel like crap, and then position you as the savior who can swoop in and help them solve their problem. Well, the problem with that dynamic is that you're going to attract people who are looking for a savior. And most of us don't want that in our business, right? So this is an example of starting to see business in more of this energetic way and marketing in more of this energetic way. And to me, what resonance is about looking at the way that you're showing up in your business, at the layers of performance, at the layers of separation that you're creating between yourself and someone else. You know, how you're showing up, feeling like you need to be something for somebody else. And slowly over time, we dismantle all of these things and we start to show up in a way that is deeply honest. And this can be scary. It can be uncomfortable. It can be painful even, because it brings us up against all these pieces in ourselves. We're afraid. We're afraid to be who we really are. And most of us deep down have this story that who I am isn't enough. Certainly I felt that way and I still do in many ways. And so it's like, I feel like I need to show up as this or that. And I feel like I need to be something for somebody else. And so resonance is what happens when we let go of all those things. And you become this beautiful lighthouse for the right people, not for everyone, but for the right person. I wanted to read this. This is something that I sent out earlier. I think this kind of sums it up. So I sent this out as a text. It took me 18 years to realize that marketing isn't about formulas, tactics, or strategies. It isn't about conversion or funnels or persuasion. It's about resonance, becoming so deeply alive, so deeply congruent, so deeply you that others can't help but notice. When you radiate, you attract. When you stop trying to convert, you become magnetic. And when you let go of all of the layers of performance, of needing to be someone, of trying to play the game at the cost of your integrity, what's left is something true, something honest, something real. And that is what your ideal clients are starving for. So my invitation to you in this moment, and you know, we're going to move forward. I want to articulate a little bit more about what this way of marketing actually looks like. But before we get there, I'm going to take a moment and reflect on how am I performing right now in my marketing? Where am I showing up with a layer of performance? Like I need to be something. Maybe just take a moment and reflect on that. And if you want to share in the chat, if you feel comfortable, I'd love to hear. So we're going to move forward as you're thinking about that. And if you want to share in the chat, I would love to hear. So when we talk about marketing from resonance, I think the first thing to really understand, and this really helped me, is that there are two goals of marketing. And marketing from resonance has a very different goal or outcome than marketing for conversion, which is the traditional way that most marketing is taught. And understanding the difference between these two things will help you step into more of this new way of marketing in your business. So marketing as conversion this is like 99% of the business advice out there. Basically, the idea of marketing or the goal of marketing in this paradigm is to get clients. Marketing is an outcome-focused activity. And everything that we do from a marketing perspective, the goal is how do we get something? So when I'm trying to market with this mindset of conversion, everything that I create, from content to trainings like this to showing up in my business, is basically driven from this sense of, if I can just show up and I can create the right content and I can send the right emails, I can create the right trainings, then I can convince my audience to want to work with me. This is marketing as conversion. Now, if you think about like applying this to another area of life, you can kind of see how crazy it is. Like, imagine you went out on a date with someone and your mindset was, my goal on this date is to get this person to sleep with me. Everything I say on this date, everything I do is designed with that end goal in mind. Would you want to go out on a date like that? I wouldn't. Would you actually feel like you were connected with that other person if you were trying to get something from them the whole time? Would that other person feel connected to you? Probably not. On a subconscious level, that person would be like, I don't know what it is about this person, but I just feel like, I don't know, there's some weird thing that I can't quite put my finger on in this conversation. I feel like they want something from me. It's needy. So we can see how crazy that is in the context of something like dating. But this is what we do in marketing, right? This is a paradigm of conventional marketing. And so, we talk about like the 4 Ps: pain, pleasure, process, proof. When you're marketing from this lens, you're going to talk a lot about the pain that your ideal clients are experiencing, the pleasure, the thing that they want, right? You're going to talk about the process or how you help people. You're going to talk about proof. You're going to share all sorts of testimonials. And none of these things are bad. Question is, what's the lens? Are we doing it through this lens of performance, this outcome focus? Also, the thing about this form of marketing is it always starts with the other person. And so we start with the niche. Like, conventional marketing advice is choose a niche and then work backwards from that niche, do a bunch of market research, figure out what their pain points are, and then create a bunch of marketing that's designed to speak to those things, right? And so marketing, at the end of the day, is a performance. It's basically like, I'm trying to be something for somebody else. And so we spend all this time intellectually crafting all this content, and we feel like we got to speak to the pain points. We got to go back to our avatar document and figure out exactly who these people are and how to say the right things. And everything's got to be tied into what these people want. So we speak in tips and frameworks and promises. The question is, what's valuable to these people versus what's true? What's true for me? Now, the result of this is we attract transactional buyers, what I would call transactional buyers. These are people who come to you because they want help solving a surface level problem. If you're a business mentor, they're going to come to you because they want to grow their business. And that's great, right? But these folks generally aren't connected to you on a deeper level. They're not there because they care about you. They're not there because they feel connected to you. They're just looking at the surface. They're saying, okay, great, you can help me solve this problem. Cool. And the challenge with this is that in this way of marketing, you essentially commoditize yourself. What I mean when I say that is that if all you're speaking to is these things, pain, pleasure, process, proof, A lot of people do this in marketing and then they wonder why they feel like they need to compete with everybody else. And people get on sales calls with them and they got a million different questions and they're comparing you to 5 other coaches that they're thinking about working with. It's because you're so on the surface in your marketing, because everything is created from this lens of conversion, that essentially someone else sees you as there's really no difference between you and anybody else that I could possibly hire. So you become a commodity, which means you have to compete on your offer. You got to have the lowest price. You got to have crazy guarantees because there's no other deeper resonance or connection that someone has. It's also not a great business to run from a perspective of fulfillment because the people around you are really just there because you can help them on the surface. They're not connected to you. They're not the type of people who, what I would call soul aligned clients, people who are not just hiring you to help them solve a surface level problem, but people who are truly meant to work with you. There's a very different thing there. People who are truly meant to work with you, there's a deeper thing happening when you work with someone that you're truly meant to work with. You think maybe you've worked with some of those clients, like those people who you're just like, I know that like our souls came together for a reason. It's so much deeper than just this surface level thing that we're doing. Even though that's the thing that we're doing, there's something deeper happening. It's not just serving them, it's serving you too. There's this like evolution and like spiritual development that they're experiencing. They're transforming, they're growing, they're of joy to work with. They're the type of clients you're just like, I can't even believe that you're paying me. This feels so fun and easy and fulfilling and meaningful. When you market in this way, you don't get those clients. So this is conventional marketing, and it doesn't work that well anymore. This is the other thing that I think a lot of folks are realizing, because in a world where we have AI churning out surface level how-to tips content at scale, in a world where there is more noise on social media than ever before, the type of stuff that worked 5 years, 10 years ago, when I was first getting started in online business, is no longer effective. The times when you could just run an ad to a 45-minute VSL or webinar and then get on a sales call with someone and then close them, it just doesn't work like that anymore. People are more skeptical. They need more time to warm up to you. There's lower trust in our world than ever before. And so we got to get beyond the surface in marketing. Marketing as resonance is very different. The goal in marketing as resonance shifts from how do I say the thing that I need to say to get the client to what's feeling alive and true for me. That might sound kind of crazy. You're like, hold on a second. You're telling me I can build a business based on sharing what's alive for me? Yes. Yes, you can. So the focus shifts from, is this going to help them? Or is this the thing that I need to say to get the client to what's real for me right now? What's alive for me right now? Is this me? Is this true? Is this honest? Is this real for me? People who teach this form of marketing, and there's not many out there, but people talk about you are the niche. And another way of looking at this is that when you start showing up in this way, people will connect and they will resonate. And it's not so much about defining a niche and going out there and getting them or targeting them. That's the word that conventional marketing will use. My God, this is another tangent, but so much of the language that conventional marketing uses is like militaristic. It's like rooted in attack, acquisition, conversion, targeting. God, this is terrible. This is marketing that was rooted in a lower level of consciousness, built by large corporations trying to sell dish soap. And now we're trying to use it to market heart-centered, human-first businesses. No wonder why it feels so off. But anyways, this idea of you become the niche means that when you show up and you speak to what's alive, what's real, what's true for you, you will naturally attract people who resonate with who you are. And it's not so much that that's a clearly defined niche all the time. You might have an external niche. Like I still help people grow businesses. I help entrepreneurs. But more and more, the way that I show up in my market, I talk about who I am. I talk about my spiritual beliefs. I talk about stories from my life. And so I attract all of these people, some of which aren't like maybe you're here, you're like, I don't even run a business. I don't know why I'm here. I just feel like I resonate with you, Jason. That's great. So you kind of create your own niche through this way of marketing, and you trust in this mindset that what moves you is going to move others rather than trying to perform. This is the big difference. Marketing as conversion is an act of performance. Everything that you do is filtered through this lens of, is it going to resonate with my niche? Is it going to speak to their pain points? Is it going to connect with what they need to hear in order to buy from me? That's exhausting. That's exhausting. Imagine you showed up to a date and the whole time, everything you were saying, you were like trying to think like, is this going to resonate with, the person that I'm with, or what are they going to think of this? It kills your flow. It kills the creative expression that's wanting to come through you. When you let go of that, when you let go of the performance and you trust that, hey, if something's real for me, if something is feeling alive for me, I trust that if I can express from that place, it will move others and it will connect with the people that it's meant to. Something very different happens. You feel a lot more free. Because I'm not sitting here trying to filter everything through this lens of like, how is it going to land for other people? I trust that this is something that I'm living. And if I share this and I speak into this, the people here who it's meant for are going to resonate with it. And they're probably going to connect on a much deeper level because there's a life force that is coming through me. And hopefully you can feel it in being in this training. There's a life force that's coming through me because this is what wants to be expressed through me. This is not me creating a masterclass based on what I think you need to hear. You hear the difference? It's a huge distinction. When your business becomes an expression of who you really are and what is wanting to come through you, you feel alive, you feel free, and your business becomes much more magnetic. Because that energy, that thing that's happening through you when you're not trying to perform, that thing, other people feel it and they feel like they want to be around it. That's when we move into the realm of magnetism. When we step out of conversion, of persuasion, of convincing. That's the frequency that most marketing is on. Because we don't have that. So we're like showing up as little like automatrons in our business, like trying to say the right thing. And so we got to like craft and architect everything. It's exhausting. So in this mindset, in this way of marketing, depth over reach, I think is really important too. The hardest thing about this is that you have to let go of this idea of speaking to the masses. Conventional marketing was built by people and corporations. Originally, if you look at the roots of marketing, our modern day marketing, it was built by people trying to sell mass market products to very large groups of people. It was built in the times when we had 3 TV channels. Can you imagine that? There was a world where there were 3 TV channels. It was like 60% of America would watch, like, I don't know what one of the TV channels was, but there was this idea of a mass market. And so it was, how do we create this bland, generic message? How do we round off all the edges? How do we just show up in a way that's palatable to as many people as possible? Most of us we're steeped in the DNA of that, even though it's no longer relevant. We don't have mass market anymore. That doesn't exist. We have social media where every single person on the planet is in their own little echo chamber. We have micro communities online where you can find the crazy sub-niche of a sub-niche of a sub-niche of community of people who are underwater basket weavers. And you can connect into a Facebook group with 1,500 people who are deeply passionate about the weird little thing that, 0.001% of people on the planet are going to be into. This is the world that we're in. And yet, so many of us are still marketing, trying to appeal to the masses. And we do it in all these subtle ways. And on a deeper level, if you look at it, within yourself, at least what I've found is like, I'm so afraid of telling you who I really am. I'm afraid if I tell you how spiritual I am, or how, I do psychedelics, or how whatever the 10,000 other things that I'm afraid to talk about are, that there's just people who are not going to be into that. And that's true. There are people who aren't going to be into that. And there are also other people, like probably two or three of you here, who heard that and they're like, oh, wow, like Jason, now I feel more connected to Jason. And so when you shift your focus from reach, which is the mindset of most entrepreneurs, is how can I get in front of more people? If I'm not getting enough clients, the instant place we go to is, well, it must be a reach problem. How do I just reach more people? My response to that is that sometimes that's the thing that needs to shift, but oftentimes what really needs to shift is this move towards depth. It's from breadth, in other words, from a message that is appealing to a large group of people, to how do we become so laser specific and deep? And how do we bring so much of who you are into your marketing that 99% of the people in your niche are like, this is not for me, and 1% are like, oh my God, I can't believe I found you. All of this creates magnetism. It creates magnetism because it's true, because it's real, because you're speaking not from what you think others need to hear, but from your own lived experience and truth. This is marketing as art, marketing as creative expression, marketing as what's alive for you in this moment right now. That energy, that embodiment, that being creates magnetism. It attracts other people to you. We step out of the realm of persuasion. Persuasion is what happens when you don't have this. We get to like twist other people's arms to try to buy from you. The result of this is soul-aligned clients. When I say soul-aligned clients, it's clients who are truly meant to work with you. People who are connected to you on a deep, deep level. And these are the clients who stick around longer, they get better results, they're a joy to work with. And also, from a you perspective, this form of marketing is so much more sustainable. And so many of you earlier, when I asked, like, how do you, David says, I'll sign up for the psychedelics class. I love it. Yeah, maybe that'll be my next master class. What was I going to say? So many of you, when I asked you, like, what's one word that you would use to describe marketing? You said heavy, aggressive, like tired. I'm tired of, and what people really, I think, mean when they say that is, I'm tired of being someone I'm not. I'm tired of feeling like I need to perform this act of marketing. That's why it feels heavy. That's why it feels aggressive. Because you have a set of beliefs and stories that say that I need to put on this mask. I have to perform. I got to do these behaviors. When that's not there anymore, marketing is freeing. It feels like an act of creative expression. Like there's no part of me, even now in this moment, that's like working hard. I don't feel like this is hard work. I really don't. I could do these all day. I'm having a great time. If I was talking about something that I didn't really care about, if I was trying to like craft the perfect conversion message for you, so maximum amount of people would buy, it'd be exhausting. So this is when marketing becomes sustainable. And sustainability, I think, is really what success in business is about, because business is a long game. And when you can show up in a way that you just enjoy, it's like, I enjoy showing up, I enjoy creating content because I enjoy being myself, because it's easy. I just want to keep doing it. I want to keep sharing. And that creates all these little micro deposits with people over time. And this, over time, is what builds a sustainable, profitable, successful business with the clients who are truly meant to work with you. So hopefully you're catching the frequency Scott says I'm into. I love it. Maybe this is the next masterclass. We got psychedelics and marketing masterclass. All right. I want to show you a couple examples of what this actually looks like to help really anchor this in. All right. So both of these are pieces of content that I wrote. This one is like before I let all this go. This was last year, 2024. I'll read this to you if you can't see it on the screen because I know it's a little tricky with the Zoom. Coaches, let's be honest, growing your business isn't easy. You've been in the game for a while with a proven track record of signing paying clients. And despite what all the business coaches plastering your Facebook feed might say, you know that getting to six figures or beyond it isn't as simple as installing some 3-step funnel or quick messaging hack or easy fix. I see you working hard, showing up in the hard to service every day to help your clients, creating content, marketing yourself online. But if you ever feel like you're missing clarity, if your marketing strategy still feels like more of a guess than a proven dialed in process, if income is inconsistent, you're not sure where your next client will come from, you're not alone. Over the past few years, I've helped hundreds of coaches. I've walked the journey with clients like Megan, who went from making $2,500 over 6 months to consistent 20K months in less than a year and retired her husband, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, you kind of get the vibe, right? This is an example of marketing as performance. This is an example of me saying, here's the niche that I want to target. This is the exact person. Let me speak to their pain points. Let me reflect that back to them. This is conventional marketing. I don't know about you, but when I read this, I'm like, oh, I'm so sick of this. It just feels so flat. Pancho says, you lose me at 6 figures. Great. So let's contrast this with, this is a piece of content I posted for our Aligned Masterclass a little while ago. When I woke up spiritually in my early 20s, most of what I'd been taught about business no longer fit. I discovered God, love, truth, that we're all one. And yet I was trying to build my business with a model that no longer fit who I was becoming. I didn't want to hustle harder, to use manipulative, salesy tactics that didn't feel authentic to me. I wanted alignment, a business that was connected to who I really was, to sell, market, and serve in a way that healed others, healed myself, and reflected the deeper truth I could no longer ignore. I've spent most of the past decade quietly refining this new way of doing business, unlearning most of what I've been taught about the right way to sell online. And what I've found is beautiful. A brand new way of showing up, of creating wealth and prosperity that isn't only profitable, but deeply aligned, fulfilling, and meaningful too. I want you to notice how it feels to receive that piece of content. Deepa says, what I am realizing is marketing is you. Yep. People are interested in you, LOL. Yeah, exactly. You are the niche, right? Now, maybe that doesn't resonate with everyone who's here, and that's cool. But this is a piece of content that was written for me. This is me speaking what's alive and true for me. And what this does, first of all, hopefully it feels a lot less performative. And I'm curious, if those of you, a couple of you who are here live, let me know, like, what did you notice in terms of like the difference between those two pieces of content as a reader, as someone who is actually listening to those two pieces of content? Like, what did you notice in yourself? Deepa says, first is pain to outcome. Yeah. Malin says, the first piece of content actually feels stressful to read because I feel pressure to take action. The second piece feels engaging and natural to read. Yeah. Yeah, what's interesting, and I appreciate you sharing that, Malin. Actually, I'll read a couple other. Yeah. Philip says, first felt like you were trying, second natural. Carolyn says, the first one felt unreliable and the second felt natural. Yeah, great observation. So what y'all are pointing to is that the first actually carries this subtle sense of like neediness. It's the person on the date who's trying to get you to sleep with them, right? You feel the neediness of it. Pancho says the first one assumes you know what I want and is borderline offensive because it imposes a six-figure income as the be all end all of a business. Great. Appreciate that, Pancho. Uh, great. Awesome. So I heard stressful, I heard unreliable. That's an interesting, it's like I feel like I can't trust that first piece of content because I feel like there's something that it needs from me. There's something it's trying to get me to do versus the second piece of content is actually just speaking from what's true and what's real for me. And there's something inviting about that. There's something engaging about that. This is the difference between marketing for conversion versus marketing for resonance. Carolyn says unrelatable, but autocorrect changed it. Got it. Okay, great. Well, hey, unrelatable and unreliable are kind of, they're kind of similar frequencies. So hopefully this helps illuminate what this looks like. I think marketing as resonance is such a powerful shift. It's not easy to make, and it's a journey. And it, in many ways, it's more challenging because it demands a deeper level of honesty and truth. You can't hide behind the mask. And I think that's the reason most people don't do it. Because sometimes the most uncomfortable thing is to show people who you really are. It's vulnerable. It's vulnerable. It's scary. But it's so much more magnetic. Everything that you really want at the end of the day, like the business that is not just profitable, but feels like you, all of it is on the other side of resonance. So as we start to wrap things up, and I want to share a little bit about one-to-one mentorship and also do some open coaching. I want to help you put this into practice though before we get there. And so there are a couple of journaling prompts I'm going to ask you to walk through with me here live. And so if you have maybe a journal, something to write with, or maybe just pull up something on your computer right now, I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. These are going to be prompts to help you anchor into this new form of marketing in your business and to help you illuminate what might need to shift and change in order to make that happen. So just pull up a document, sheet of paper. The first question I want you to journal on is, where are you currently on the continuum between marketing for conversion versus marketing for resonance? So just look at the way that you're marketing right now and showing up in your business. And if there was like a sliding scale, and on one side it was marketing for conversion and one side is marketing for resonance, where are you showing up? And the key here is this is not meant to be like an exercise in like judgment. So if you notice a lot of those ways of marketing for conversion that I just shared with you, that's okay. There's nothing wrong. It's not like you're doing something wrong. It's just awareness. I'll give you about 30 seconds to reflect on that. And the next question I have for you, this one I actually didn't write down, but I think this is a really good question. Where am I performing? And how am I performing in my marketing right now? How specifically am I performing? Where am I showing up as someone that I'm not? Where am I playing a role that's not who I really am? Where am I trying to convince or persuade or convert or get? Take another 30 seconds or so. Okay, wrapping up that question. If you want to come back to these later on after this training, that's great too. So, next question is, I love this question. If you had $100 million in the bank and never needed to sign another client, how specifically would you show up in your marketing differently? Take another 20 seconds or so. All right. And last question, if you completely let go of what you think you need to say to get clients, what do you feel most called or excited to share, express, or create right now? Yeah, sure, Kelly. If you completely let go of what you think you need to say to get clients, what do you feel most called or excited to share, express, or create right now? taking another 20 seconds or so to wrap that up. And as you're wrapping up, I would love to hear a couple of folks who want to share, if you feel called to share in the chat, what came up for you as a result of reflecting on those questions? Any insights or specific shifts? I'd love to hear in the chat. Deepa says, I would probably go deep in my journey, creating within, then out for now. Great. And I would just share my journey. May not be marketing. That is impact. Yeah, what if marketing is just sharing your journey? Carolyn says, I would post less often, but create more in-depth content for the public. I would feel that I was allowed to have deep transformational messages rather than trying to fit into short attention spans. Great. Philip says, creating from resonance is way more fun. Marketing made easy. Yeah, it is, Philip. Loves that. And Carolyn says that we're more powerful than we know, that it's possible to release our physical, energetic, and emotional clutter, our limitations, and completely transform our lives. Love that message. Imani says, resonance feels like ease. I like just being who I am in the meaning of my work. Kelly says, I feel excited to potentially be me. And like if I can be more of my real self, I'll actually be closer to living out what my true calling is for my time on earth. Yeah, absolutely. And what if that was actually the path to business growth? What if those two things were actually connected? So many times we create this narrative or this belief that in order for me to be aligned with my deepest purpose or to be who I really am, that requires some level of sacrifice. Like I can't have this thing over here if I do that. Or I need to let go of this if I do that. And what if it's all connected? Malin says, I've got one soul aligned client right now who's generally just thrilled to work with me. Whatever I happen to be putting out, I definitely want to work with more people like that. Yeah, this is what happens. I think resonance is the path to that. Deepa says, a lot of performance, even in this coach title. I feel disconnected and somewhat bearing so much responsibility in my shoulders as an inspiring coach. Yeah, what if you let go of that, just that idea of like inspiring others? Like, what if we just completely release that? Or like, I'm not here to inspire anyone. What would that create for you? It feels like I need to solve others' problems, and that's really not what I am into. That is why I have push and pull and not full alignment with coaching, because it feels so much of I need to, I have to, feels good, share this. Yeah. I think it's very freeing to let go of the belief that you need to carry others up the mountaintop. That coaching is actually, I mean, it can be about that if you want it to be in that form of coaching. I think can be very heavy, but on the deepest level, coaching and mentorship is really just you holding a field. It's your own embodiment that creates a certain space where somebody else can do their own work. And that actually it's not really your job to take responsibility in any way for someone else's transformation. Even the idea of inspiring there's a heaviness to that. Like I need to do something for somebody else. And so there's a lot of freedom in letting go of that. Thank you all for sharing. I really appreciate those insights. So I want to, before we wrap up, I do want to spend some time doing some open coaching. And if questions came up, if reflections came up throughout this experience, this is an opportunity for us to dive deep on those things. Before we do, I want to share a little bit about one-to-one mentorship with me. If you're feeling called to this work on a deeper level, if this was transformative for you, if you're seeing the possibility of a new way of showing up in your business, a way that feels more aligned, more easeful, more free, more self-expressed, and you want to grow. You want to grow as a human being and you want to grow your business. You want to be able to generate more revenue. You want to be able to sign more clients. You want to be able to expand both on the inside and the outside. This is the work that I help folks do. And really our masterclass today was a taste of that. When I work with clients one-to-one, we're diving so much deeper into all these things and really architecting the business from the inside out. And the result of that is, again, it's more revenue, it's more growth, it's more impact, it's more of the clients that you really want. And on an internal level, it's more of the kind of business that feels like a joy to run. So when we let go of all the layers of performance and the shoulds and the have tos and the stuff that just makes business feel heavy, there's a possibility for so much lightness and so much freedom and so much fulfillment and ease, and that actually is the path to business growth. So I love getting to help entrepreneurs do this work. I do have a couple spots open right now for one-to-one mentorship with me. This is not like a big group program where you're showing up to Zoom calls with like 50 people. This is me and you really working together on a high intimacy basis, where you're actually getting one-to-one support with me, where we're walking through these shifts on a deep level so that you can do this work and step into a new chapter of your business, a chapter that's more aligned, that's more profitable, that's more freeing, and really just is more you. So if you're feeling called to that, I'd love to explore how we might be able to partner together to do that work. If you go to jasonmoss.com/apply, on that page, there's an application. You just tap the button and fill out that application. That goes directly to me. I'll review that personally. If I think I may be able to help you and it feels like there might be alignment, I will reach out to you and we can set up a time to connect for a no pressure conversation where we can explore what that might look like and figure out what you need and whether or not that's aligned for both of us. So jasonmoss.com/apply if you want to take that next step. And that's available to you. And I'd love to have that conversation with you and explore how we might be able to help you step into that next chapter of your business. So we're going to transition to open coaching. And I want to open things up. So if you have questions, if stuff came up for you as a result of this masterclass today, now's an awesome opportunity for us to explore that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm seeing that Malin's raising his hand. So let's start with you, brother. I'm going to unmute you here.
Hi, Jason. This is awesome. Thank you. Thank you for hosting this.
Yeah, you got it.
I guess I have an instinct about some of this stuff, and I want to bounce it off you and see if it sounds right. So, I've been working on learning all this marketing stuff and putting some of it into practice. And I think my instinct is that the traditional marketing knowledge is still valuable here, but it's like you're using it in a different way. So would you say we're throwing out all the old stuff, or would you say this is kind of like a different perspective on it?
I have an answer to that question, but I'm curious because you said it sounds like you're feeling into something. What do you think?
Yeah, I sort of had a shift recently, and I'm very early on, and as far as like the business side of it goes, but I had a shift recently where more of this stuff started getting internalized, and I put out a video that just sort of like came up naturally, and there was definitely like marketing stuff that was incorporated into what I was saying, but I was speaking more like from the heart, and it was just coming out in terms that hopefully land well with the audience because of the marketing knowledge that I've had. So it feels like a synthesis is the way to go. And I think like a lot of people are out there on social media, for example, just saying what kind of comes off the top of their heads, which isn't quite what you're advocating here either. But I guess I'm trying to find that line between like just being totally open and not worrying about it at all, and and using the skills,
Yeah.
From the business or the field, I guess.
Totally, yeah. I appreciate the question. And I think what you're pointing to is spot on, which is it's not that we're throwing out the old, but that there's really an integration happening. I still use a lot of traditional marketing concepts, and even like the second piece of content that I shared is it's still like there's a call to action, and it's, you know, driven towards a workshop, and it's I'm sharing my own story, but it is framed in the lens of, hey, there's this thing that I'm offering. And so to your point, I think you're spot on it. Like, I don't think it's a matter of throwing out the old, but recontextualizing it and taking more of a resonance led perspective. And we get to use some of these old ideas and concepts, but reimagine them to fit within a higher level of consciousness and a higher level of energy. And yeah, so I think it's helpful in this kind of a masterclass to like I really kind of contrasted like the old and the new is like here's the and hopefully that message doesn't come across as like this is wrong and this is right, but more so that these are kind of the two extremes as a way of painting the difference between those two things. But in reality, I think there's a merging of both of those. And it's not that we throw out the old. So I think you're spot on that, and I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, thanks, Malin. Steph says, Jason, you're ahead of the curve with marketing. Really appreciate all you do. Thank you. Thanks, Steph. I really appreciate that. Linda says, I need to listen again. Will the recordings be available via email? Yeah, we'll definitely send this out afterwards. And for those of you who have more questions, or if something's coming up, you can go ahead and either raise your hand. You can use like one of those Zoom chat things. Okay, we'll go with Philip. Me unmute you, Philip. There we go. What's up, brother?
Yeah, thank you. Great masterclass. Really resonates.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So my block is around this money piece because I love to create from resonance, and that's easy for me, and it's fun for me, and it's expressive. But as I've been doing that for a couple of years now, when the question came in, like, okay, now I need to get clients. Basically, I quit my job. It's like, oh, this financial insecurity is coming in, and then I tend to go into this tangent of like, okay, now I need to get the new marketing technique, the new strategy, the new messaging, the new model that's finally gonna give me my clients,
Yeah.
so I can survive. And so this tension then kind of like is, and then I noticed that's not fun. So now I'm like stepping back from that again, more into the resonance. But as I'm going more to the resonance again, this financial insecurity is coming in, and this doubt in the mind is coming in again of like, okay, but then how are we going to get clients? And internally, kind of like I have this clarity and understanding that if I just do the resonance, the clients will come if I go deeper into my own self-actualization and radiate that out. But still, there's no food on the table, kind of like vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is real, right? Because like when we look at like what's underneath that like get energy, what I'm hearing is it's fear. And I want to normalize that because that's like the underpinning of all of this. It's like what pulls us into conversion and that kind of chasing energy is fear. It's I feel like something's not here and I'm scared and I'm afraid that I'm not going to be supported. And so my invitation to you would be, well, first of all, I guess question, like, what do you do when you notice that part of your mind that gets like triggered or comes up, like the scarcity or the fear around, like, hey, I'm not going to be supported, or like I need to survive, like that, those kind of like patterns and the nervous system side of it. Like, how do you work with that in yourself?
Yeah. So usually, what my approach has been so far, which has been working, is to get to the next marketing book, to study the next video, and then to kind of like put that into action. And that doesn't feel aligned anymore. And so what I'm kind of like pivoting to now is actually to do the opposite: go into nature for a day, fast for 24 hours,
Yeah.
do some psychedelics,
Yeah.
and it's like and return kind of like to my center to actually counteract that by just getting more into being rather than doing and overthinking. So this is what I'm trying to kind of like move to right now, to actually slow down rather than speed up.
Yeah, I love that you said that because that's the way. I mean, I notice a lot of this energy come up all the time in myself. And anything that you do from fear, like if the base energy is fear, it's never going to work. So whenever you're like, what I've noticed is like, whenever I'm in fear and then my mind's like, I need to go do a bunch of things based on that fear. Like I need to go read another marketing book, or I need to launch this thing, or I need to send this email or reach out to this person or do it. But the energy underneath it is I'm afraid. Like I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to have my needs met, or I'm not going to make enough money this month. Anything I do from that place never works. So the move is like the radical thing that you're talking about, which is like the doing of the opposite of like what your mind is going to tell you you need to do in that place, which is actually disconnect and step away and regulate your nervous system as the foundational thing. I think it's being able to hold a certain frequency of all my needs are met. Like, how would I show up in this business if I knew that I was taken care of? If I knew that I already had a calendar full of clients? If I knew that I had more than enough money coming in? What would want to be created from that place? And if you can walk in that and hold that, and it doesn't mean you don't feel fear sometimes, but when it comes up, if you don't act from that, if it's like, okay, I noticed that I'm in fear, let me go take a walk, or let me go out in nature, or do whatever works for you to like help you connect back to like source and your own center. And then, you can lead and make decisions from that grounded place instead of the fear. If you just hold that energy and walk with that energy and create from that energy, the business will become an expression of that abundance. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And it might be in the past that maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe the piece that was missing was like that full rootedness or that full stability in that frequency. Like maybe there was like part of it was there, but then I would like slip into fear and I do a bunch of things from that place. And maybe the inconsistency of the business is really just a reflection of like an internal inconsistency in frequency. Does that resonate for you?
Yeah, that does resonate.
Yeah.
Because it's like I notice it's kind of like easier said than done. Even though
It's the hardest thing, man.
it's like if the bank account is close to zero, to hold that frequency of abundance and enoughness is a masterful skill, kind of like.
Yeah, it is the hardest thing, and it's easy to say. I mean, this past year for me has been a really great example of that, because when I let go of our old business, it was like 80% of our revenue basically like dried up overnight. This is at the same time that we moved into this beautiful, multi-million-dollar home here in Boulder. It was like 3 times like my old, like the rent that we were paying. So it was like my lifestyle expenses went way up and the business revenue went like way down. And honestly, the first I would say 4 or 5 months, I really struggled with the exact thing that we're talking about. And I think what I realized over time was that like the business won't stabilize until I do. And it wasn't until I started really anchoring, and like for me it was like nervous system regulation. It was like that's the thing. So it's like there's so many practices and so many ways out there to regulate, but like that became my most important job. And I started telling myself this, I started using this mantra. I was like, I create from presence, not pressure. So whenever I feel pressure, I'm not going to do anything from that place. Like I'm not going to do a launch. I'm not going to create a new offer. I'm not going to create content. Whenever I notice that part of me that's just like feeling triggered or feeling afraid, I started doing exactly what you're talking about. I was like, I step away. I go on walks. I go lay down. I, take a nap or whatever I need to do. And that was when things started really shifting and stabilizing in my business. Because the business is just a mirror, right? It's just showing you yourself. So, when people are experiencing inconsistency in a business, my question is always like, where's your energy? And usually what I find is like the energy's up and down. So the business is just a mirror to that. So I think it sounds like you've already really tapped in to what's needed. And I just want to encourage you on that path, because it sounds like you're on the right track.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Very helpful.
Yeah.
Reassurance.
Yeah, you got it, brother. Thanks for the question. All right, let's move on to Pancho. What's up,
I
Pancho?
actually want to build on. How's it going? I want to get, if possible, and maybe it's one of those things where you just have to hold the question and then you'll figure it out as you try the thing out and experience it. But something Philip said was, it's masterful to be able to hold that mentality or emotional state of abundance when the bank account is approaching zero, right? And in my mind, it's like, well, another way of calling it masterful is like it's cognitive dissonance. The bank account is approaching zero, right? So then to tell yourself like, I'm living in abundance, to some degree, that's arguing with reality. But I also recognize the truth in what you're saying, Jason, which is there is there's a benefit that happens from not acting from a place of fear. And the business of acting as a mirror for yourself. So I'm just trying to figure out, coming back to, like that abundance mentality, what does it actually look like in a way that doesn't create cognitive dissonance when the bank account is shrinking? And when you aren't getting clients just yet, what did that look like for you over the first 4 months?
Well, do you believe that you create your reality?
I don't know. Yes and no. And I actually have no idea. Like the definition of reality is a tricky one, right? So, but in some sense, absolutely. Yeah, the way that I perceive and think is the lens with which everything gets interpreted.
So there's a part of you that does, and there's a part of you that doesn't.
Absolutely. And that's how I operate. The takeaway I am getting from this call is that's how I operate, holding two contradictory truths at once is really valuable.
Yeah.
And it makes everybody really uncomfortable. And that's actually what I can take to the world and have everybody be like, oh, fuck, that's heavy, but also a breath of fresh air. So, yeah, that's my answer for this one is I do, but also maybe I don't. I have no idea there's no way of getting to objective reality beyond my interpretation.
So let's just play with this for a second. And you can, whatever beliefs you have right now, you can take them back after this masterclass. But let's just set aside, let's like wipe the slate completely clean for a second. Let's just pretend for a second we're operating with this belief that you create everything. Like your thoughts, your beliefs, the story that you tell about your reality actually creates it. Like your bank account is a response. It's not an objective thing. It's literally something that's created by how you feel, by how you think, by the story that you choose to tell yourself. If you believe that to be true, how would you answer your own question?
How would I answer my own question? My question, well, thank you for coaching me on this. And my question was specifically, what was it?
How do I hold the cognitive dissonance of my bank account saying one thing, and then I feel like I'm being told to think something else when my bank account doesn't reflect that? How would you answer that question if you believe that you were the cause, not the effect?
That I want to be respectful of the fact that there are other people with their hands up, but the thing that is coming to mind for me immediately is the same answer I gave you about creating my reality, which is how can I know that that's actually the way things are, right? That things are going in a negative direction, that the bank account is shrinking towards zero, and that, that is the reality. That is the lens I should adopt and move forward with, which then leads me to the fear that you and Philip were talking about. So yeah, it's almost like my response to your hypothetical experiment of if I create my reality, then how would I answer my own question is still responding as me, which is, I'm not sure, like that. It's a question that can't be answered because I don't have the perspective to answer it with.
Well,
but that's actually reassuring because then it's not the thing to focus on.
so I think this is something that you get to live into as a question. And I'll say from my perspective, my belief is I create everything. I create everything around me. My life is a mirror. is another way of putting it. There is no reality. There's just me. And my thoughts, my beliefs, the stories I choose to tell, the perspective that I take literally creates everything I experience. So, like you say, cognitive dissonance, I would use the phrase like reality creation, which is if I don't tell myself a different story, the outside's never going to change. So if my bank account is zero, if I look at my bank account as zero and I'm just like, well, my bank account is zero, oh, I'm scared, and I start creating literally thoughts that are a response to just looking at my bank account and it's zero, and then I take certain actions as a result of that, and I create a reality that's just a continual perpetuation of the zero bank account. That's why people get stuck, in my experience. It's like we look at our reality, quote unquote, think it's outside of ourselves, and we choose thoughts, and we choose emotions, and we choose experiences and actions based on what's right in front of us. At a certain point, all change starts. Every single, like, when I work with entrepreneurs, the first thing we do is identity work. So, like, I'll be like, look, if you want to make 7 figures in your business and you're at 6 figures, the question I ask is like, well, how would a 7-figure entrepreneur show up? What decisions would a 7-figure entrepreneur make? How does a 7-figure entrepreneur move through their day? And you literally create a different reality inside yourself. And my experience is the outside will mirror that. There's a period of time where there is a disconnect between the outside and the inside. But if you can hold the frequency of something, if you can hold the identity of something, if you can hold a set of thoughts and beliefs long enough, the outside will mirror and match that. Now, if you've never had that experience, it's a bit of a leap of faith, right? And that's where we're coming up against like your current belief system right now. Because you're like, Jason, that sounds great, but like, hold on a second. Like the whole world has told me a story that says there's this thing outside myself. And how can I think differently when I've got this bank account that's telling me zero? You're telling me to think like I'm rich when I'm broke? That doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm telling you, yes, you're right. It doesn't make sense, the model of the world that 99.9% of people on the planet are going to tell you that's how it works. And my invitation would be that might just be a collective belief in a story. And so what if there's a new reality that you've just never experienced before? What if there's a new experience of yourself as a powerful creator, as someone who creates the bank account, not the other way around? The bank account doesn't have any power over me. I'm a powerful creator. I can choose to create a $0 bank account balance, or I can choose to create millions of dollars. And I've done both. And I can tell you, it always started with me. So, that's not something that needs to shift right now in this moment. But my invitation to you would be like, like what would it look like to like play with that idea a little bit?
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah. The thing that's coming immediately to mind for me is the difference between a useful belief and a true belief. And true beliefs are really fucking hard to get to. And useful beliefs, like I create my reality, my business is a reflection of me. You know, you live into them and then they become true, which is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You got it, brother. I appreciate the honesty of your question and the ability to be in the in-between in community. Because that's a beautiful place to be, and sometimes a vulnerable place to be too. So thank you for that, brother. So we're going to do one more question/share from Kelly, and then we're going to wrap things up. Kelly, what's up?
Thank you. Hey, thanks, Jason. This has been great. So I want to kind of play more full out, like being myself. And I think I still have fear coming up around, when I share my values, that those are potentially divisive. It's kind of like that 99%, 1% thing. And what if, like that's not, like I am a super empathetic person. So like, what if that prohibits me from reaching or helping someone that I could actually really reach and help in the world? So it's a fear that I just like have been really stuck on.
What are you afraid to like say? Like if you were just like, that's the thing, you name it.
I mean, I feel like political beliefs or
like what?
just like a lot of the values driven things. Like I remember you sent an email one time that made your political beliefs very clear. And I was like, whoa, he just did that. And also continued to magnetize me towards your work. Right. So
what's
yeah.
the specific belief? Like, is it like I hate Trump or I love Trump or what's the thing?
Yeah, you could say that. You could say I hate Trump. And
Okay.
it's not like I would lead with that in my marketing, but just letting those parts of myself come through, I'm like, oh, then I'm going to lose people that I could potentially help in the world.
Okay. Well, there's different ways we can look at this. So what do you think actually really helps people? Like, what do you think your greatest service is to the world?
I would say when I'm coaching folks, I'm able to really be like a safe place for them.
Let's forget about that for a second. I want to go deeper. So when I shared my thoughts about Trump, something happened for you. Tell me what that moment was like for you when you saw that.
I don't know. I guess it was just like excitement that we have shared values.
And I'm also hearing that there was a piece that felt like there was like a permission slip for you.
How do you hear that?
You talked earlier about how it was like seeing me express in that way created a moment for you where there was a possibility of like, oh, I could actually like be more fully who I am too. Like there was a way in which me being fully self-expressed and sharing those values opened a possibility or a door for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my invitation to you would be, what if the real value that you're actually able to create in someone else's life is less about your ability to hold space or all these things that maybe you've conventionally seen as like, this is my value to the world, and more so about becoming so fully self-expressed and radiant in who you are that you become this like massive walking permission slip to all the people out there who are playing small and holding back their truth and afraid to say the thing that they really want to say, and that's actually your value. More so than anything you do with your clients, it's your being. It's literally the way that you radiate to the world. How would that change things for you?
Yeah, that's crazy. And it's interesting because I'm passionate about like what you were talking about, like regulating my nervous system and things like that, like improving my own way of being in that way too, like being fully myself, but also the work that I'm doing to be and show up in ways that I want to. I could see being like a parallel to what you're saying.
Yeah. On all those pieces, like the things that you're most afraid to say, that in you walking through the fire and being expressed in that way, that is the service that you offer to others, to the world.
Okay. I got to like sit with that for a little bit. That's good.
We're conditioned to see value as something that we do,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what you just shared with me is like, well, what's the value that I provide my clients? Your first answer was like, well, it's I hold space and I like do this and I do that. And the shift is actually the deepest form of value is not about what you do, it's about who you are. It's about your being. Your being is valuable. Like you, in your essence, in your truth, is the deepest value for other people.
That's super cool.
It's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah. And when you shift that like model as like how you see service, I think that's what's going to get like your mind on board. Because the part of you that's like, well, I want to help people. Like I'm hearing that there's this conflict. There's this way that you've said like, hey, I really want to help people. Like I care deeply about other people, but I feel like if I express myself fully, then I'm not going to be able to help people, or that's going to compromise my ability to help people. So the reframe here is actually you being fully self-expressed is how you help people on the deepest level. Because just like you just described that moment when you read my email about Trump and you were like, oh, like, I didn't even realize like there was this part of me that was like afraid to say the thing that I want to say. And then when I saw Jason say it, I was like, oh, there's this freedom. There's this like, he's showing me like there's this possibility. That's what we do for each other through our being. And this is resonance. This is everything that we're talking about today. It's the shift from marketing as performance, as this value, as this thing that's more about like tips and tricks and the way that you hold space and all the things you think you do for someone else, and shifting to realizing that your deepest act of service is your being. It's who you are. It's the way that you radiate and embody and the truth that you express. And that when we're all connected to that and we show up in that sense, that is when we truly get to change the world.
I love that so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Kelly. All right, so this seems like a great place for us to wrap up for today. I appreciate y'all for being here. I want to remind everyone, if you feel called to take that next step and explore what it would look like to deepen in this work through one-to-one mentorship, there's the URL on the screen. You can go to jasonmoss.com/apply and submit an application. I am so grateful that we got to hang out today and that I had the opportunity to share this with you. So thank you all for your presence, for your space, and for your vulnerable, honest questions. And I'm looking forward to the next time that we get to hang out. So take care, and I hope you have a great rest of your week and a great weekend, guys.